Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my corner of the internet. My name is Fats, this is Tchai, and today we're talking graphic novels. This video, I'm hoping, doesn't feel as hectic as the filming process has been, and I'm hoping that editing Fats can get it together and put it together as a much more understandable and cohesive video. So we're gonna switch POVs. We're gonna hang out at my living room, and then at other moments I'm going to actually show you what the books look like. I've gone through, we're gonna talk about 5 different graphic novels today. I have 2 YA, 1 DNF, an insane comic, and one that I've just started. So let's jump right into the books that I have been reading these past couple weeks. So first up is going to be Monstress. This is set in an alternate matriarchal 1900s Asia. This is an Art Deco infused steampunk in which you have the trauma of war and the power of an FMC like no other. I'm only a few pages into this one. However, the vibrance and the beauty of the art style has me so hooked. Since I am unable to give you a full review of this one, I think it would fit if I just kind of take you through what is happening so far. It's issues 1 through 18 is what I'm seeing. So I know the first page is somewhat, there's some nudity, so I'm going to cover up the nudity on the first page. So this story opens up with a young girl who does have one arm, and she is being sold. They call her an arcanic, and in this selling, you have a bunch of people of power around who are bidding over her and deciding whether or not they can have her. At the end of all of this bidding, it's actually this lady right here who gets our main character. I don't know her name yet at the point that I'm at. So you actually get into a carriage and you're headed to where we are taking not only this arcanic, but a cute little cyclops boy, a fox girl, and another girl with some wings on the end. It looks like they're buying magical creatures. It said here that you are in the city of Zamora. So much was destroyed during the war, and yet some cities rebuilt themselves as if nothing happened. Too bad people don't rebuild themselves so easily. There's a bit of a back and forth between our main character and the woman who is in charge of this carriage. And once you get there, all of the people, all of the kids are separated. Coming into the actual building, you have this woman who is unnamed at this point, and the woman who actually bought our main character. They're sitting, they're jesting, they're talking. One element that is unspoken about and a little bit unknown is this brand on our main character. Not sure what that is about yet. Again, I've just started, but look at how gorgeous this art is. Back to the story. So you have a bit of a back and forth, and there is a conversation that is leaving a lot of bits out about why have you chosen her? Why this girl? Who is this? What is this brand? Why does your mother want her? Right? And then we get our first flashback. And in this flashback, she looks like she still doesn't have her arm. She has this like magical wooden type of arm type thing. She's talking to a very small girl. Back to the present. You have our main character in a cell, and you have this really mean guard lady yelling at her and talking at her, banging on the walls. And from all the blood around here and from the discussions that you have amongst the magical beings, it actually looks like they are taking pieces, like it's bloody. They're taking and selling pieces of these magical beings. That's what you get here. Then you go back to the flashback, still a month ago. You have our main character and this small girl, woman, not sure who this is yet, still talking back and forth. Here's something the poets say. There's more hunger in the world than love. When we were slaves, we knew endless hunger. What I feel now is worse. This is about to come up. She's fighting all of these wolves. They come up out of nowhere up behind her. And it looks like she like turns into this insane fighter out of nowhere. Ends all of the wolves and then eats from them. No idea what's going on there. It looks like she has a darkness in her. Not sure yet. Back to the present. All of the magical creatures are going back and forth. There's a guy saying they take pieces of him and eat pieces of him. And he's totally losing it. When the main guard lady takes the small fox girl, our main character starts talking back. She's not so crazy about it. She's like, take me instead. They shock her, right? And she suddenly gets magic, slams the door off, hits this lady, slams her against the wall, and then rescues all the magic people. But she's bleeding. She's down on the ground. She has a mission. There's something she has to do. She tells everybody else to escape. Upstairs, you have the woman who bought her experimenting with the pieces of that Cyclops boy. Somebody rushes in and says, all of the magics have escaped. All the arcanics have escaped. I don't know what's going on here, but she turns a little scary for a second. Don't know what that was all about. Look at our main character. She busts in. She's wielding a mother effing flamethrower with a sword, right? Burns the guard down, attacks the lady who bought her. She's burning her. And you know what she says? Witches all burn the same. Because this lady is like, do you know who I am? She's like, yeah, I know. You're a witch. And y'all all burn, right? Burns her. A crisp. She's fighting this lady. This lady is telling her, don't do it. Don't go out there. Stabs her. Gets rid of her. But then look. She finds, mind you, the little fox girl said that she followed her. She thought it would be safer with her. So the little fox girl stayed behind. Now you're going to get to this woman. This is the mother of this lady. But as they're talking, there's a history between this lady and our main character's mother. Back to a flashback. They're discussing this creature. And she goes, the priests say they're the ghosts of the dead gods. But I don't believe they're ghosts. This is on the front of the book, so I think it has, I'm sorry, I'm covering up nudity. This has more to do with the story somewhere. I don't know. She's talking about a lock that she broke off, still in the past. Back to the present. She's fighting the lady who has history with her mother. And the history of her mother is saying, she's talking about an adventure that her mom went on with her. Discovering a magical being, going into a tomb, something, whatever. This lady looks effing crazy. But again, I think she's a witch. But I think witches and arcanics are different. Because you know what she's talking about? She's talking about eating arcanics. Which is insane. Even this boy in a cage. So she's like, okay, wait, hold on. Let me get back to it. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So they're fighting. And she goes, oh, well, I have something I can show you. Takes her into a secret back room. And in this secret back room, there's a small arcanic boy, a young boy in a cage. And he goes, please don't hurt me. Please don't eat any more of me. Horrifying. That's so scary. The woman goes, oh, I can tell you about your mother. A fight breaks out. Once that fight breaks out, our main character breaks out her and the boy that was getting eaten. Well, hold on. What am I trying to say? Sorry, this is so messy. So, our girl beats this witch woman in the fight. After beating the witch woman in the fight, she breaks her, the boy, and the fox girl back out, right? But a sarcophagus in the corner opens. And our main character is like, No, 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 not that voice. No idea. I guess she has a connection to the scary thing in the coffin. When the coffin opens, it's a piece of a mask, and she grabs it. This is the symbol that's on her chest. Also, it looks like the eye from this. But anyways, she grabs the mask, and she happens to see a photo of her mother, her, and this woman, the witch woman. They escape, they get out, and she falls. But something takes over her body, and her voice changes. She calls to the fox girl. She screams about how hungry she is. She grabs the fox girl, but then she turns a little bit back into herself and she goes, "Get away, get away." And she's mumbling to herself, "I'm not a monster. I'm not a monster." And then the fox girl and the boy run off. Here's that two-tailed cat from the past, and it goes, to quote the poets, "We're effed." And that's as far as I've gotten. I have no idea where this story is going. I don't know what's going on. This art is so cool. I did a little bit of flipping just to like take a peek at it, and the art is insane in here. I don't want to spoil myself though, but that is Monstress. Up next, I have a YA graphic novel in which you meet Ella, and in an absolute drunken night of partying and fun, Ella accidentally steals from the unknown party host. Little does she know that the person that she steals from and the home that she steals from is that of Maddie, who is her crush and soon-to-be girlfriend. As these two get to know each other a little bit better, Ella finds out that Maddie is a kleptomaniac, and these two get into an adventure of returning the things once stolen, getting to know each other, maneuvering first crushes, and maneuvering senior year of high school. There's some scenes in the beginning that I think are so good. So you open up with one of our main characters going to school. And this main character has a crush on this girl, right? But look at the way that emotions and that crush is drawn. So she sees her sit. She sees the back of her neck. She blushes a little bit. And then just as they make eye contact, this is how those feelings are drawn out. My goodness, that is so good. And then she's just kind of like floating and just dripping wet. It's so cute. So we have an initial crush, right? Our main character and her best friend are planning to go to a party that night. She's trying on clothes, she's getting ready, and then they sneak off. And the house is huge. They've never known anybody so rich in their life. There's a chandelier, everybody's partying. They don't really know who's hosting the party. And our main character is just drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking. Until she feels so sick that she thinks she's gonna hurl. And then she runs upstairs. Once upstairs, she's trying doors, and finds a bedroom. And sees a door at the edge of the bedroom, which must be a bathroom. Behind that door are so many valuables. Our main character thinks she's just too drunk at that point and closes the door, opens it again, and then accidentally pukes in that closet, right? And then passes out. And wakes up the next morning with all the things that were in that closet of valuables. When she's trying to figure out what to do, her doorbell buzzes, and it's the girl she has a crush on. They talk, they chat. She shows her around. Our main character's parents are traveling, so she got a little studio to herself just to finish out senior year of high school. She lives alone. They drink some tea together. They get to know each other. And the crush says, yeah, my parents are out of town, so I threw a party. And our main character goes, you, that was your party? She's stressed because she literally stole from that party. She doesn't know what to do. But oh my goodness, they kiss. It's so cute. But she can't even focus on the kiss because she's so worried about all the things that she stole. So she gets the plan to not return the items, but if she goes to another party and drops the stuff off there, then somebody else will get blamed, but not her. So they go to another party. Once at the party, she's going around, she's socializing, she's talking to people, but she almost forgets her plan. She needs to put that backpack of stuff somewhere so it can get found and somebody else can get blamed for the stealing, right? But she finds a good room to drop the stuff off, whatever. Once she's in the room, other people start to come in, and so she jumps into the closet to hide. Meanwhile, in the closet is her crush. Her crush was hiding in there because she felt left at the party when our main character went to go run around and talk to people. And so she had been hiding in there because she felt left and she felt alone. We get a flashback from a month ago of our main character. Well, of the crush, who just kind of looks like she doesn't have many friends and she's struggling to make friends. But then we get a scene of the crush stealing something and putting it in that cabinet of valuables. Now we're back to the present and we're no longer in that flashback. They look at one another and the crush realizes that in that bag are all the stolen goods. And she's like, are you the one who barfed in my closet? So they talk it out. They're forgiven, right? But the crush admits to our main character that she stole all of the things in the closet. And the main character, she's like, oh, totally understandable. I get it. I did the same. I was way too drunk. Like, you get drunk and you do crazy stuff. Understandable. So she says, I've got a plan. How about we go to a bunch of parties and we return all the things that were stolen? Then nothing's wrong. There's no issues. This story then becomes them returning the items, going to parties, making plans, building forgiveness, trying to return everything that was taken, all underneath everyone's noses. The best friend of the main character gets involved, and they just make it sort of a team effort to get everything turned back in. But conflict arises when we find out that the crush had stolen the things on purpose. And a fight breaks out between the two of them. They don't talk for a couple days, but there's no issues. They talk it out. It becomes a story of, well, this is the drawings of how she felt when they stopped talking. I love this art. But it becomes a discussion of the crush stole because she was bullied horribly. And she had to put on a face that everything was okay, and she had to act like everything was all right. And it wasn't until she stole that she felt a little bit better, and she felt like she was being herself, and she wasn't this perfect person with this hard life. And they talk it out, they hug it out, and then they say, let's work together and do one last party, right? We have one more thing. But the best friend says, don't you guys worry, I'll return it for you. They all work together so that they can graduate, they can get good grades, they study, they work hard, and they graduate. They pass their classes, they make it through school. They go to one last party together. But there's still one last item to return. And they have to return it to the guy who bullied her from the very jump. But don't worry, our main character says, you don't have to deal with this. I'll return it for you. And she goes over there to return it to him, and he says something. We don't know what he says. She slaps him and then runs out and goes, we don't have to return this one thing. And then the crush goes, that's fine by me. So cute. And they sell the necklace and buy some ice cream with the money. It is so adorable. I love the art. I did leave out a couple of moments, but I just thought it was such a heartwarming and cute story to read through. I don't know how to explain it, but as you've seen and how I felt about it, the drawing style of Thieves was just so fun. That page that shows the feeling of a first crush looking back at you in school, I loved it. There's a whimsy to this book that felt so good to read through and was such a nice palate cleanser in the midst of a lot of the other heavier things that I've been reading these past few months. But after that, I read You Belong Here, another YA graphic novel. And this one is a story that sits on the tongues of so many high schoolers in their senior year, or any year of that matter for high school, and I would say adulthood now, of just not knowing where you belong, not knowing your next steps, not knowing how your relationships and your friendships come together in spaces of transition. Because you open up with Essie, who is going through heartbreak. Her and her high school sweetheart and long-term boyfriend have just broken up. She's also going through the heartbreak of her best friend being in college and the distance that they are now experiencing and the different structures that come with friendship and feeling abandoned in that sense. Essie also has the heartbreak of her older brother being in rehab and her family being ashamed of that storyline and having to keep that secret and not knowing who to talk to feel like her mom is pushing her to a future that she doesn't want. Essie is dealing with all of this. But then on top of that, she meets the younger brother of the boy who used to sell drugs to her older brother, the older brother that is now in rehab. And in these stages of heartbreak, Essie doesn't know if she's coming to truly like this boy. She doesn't know if she's using him as a distraction, and she doesn't know if he's just a fling. And she's just sort of battling the waves of growing up in this short year of school. The way that this is written out is actually the senior class is given the senior assignment of carrying around a journal or diary. And throughout this story, Essie's just writing in that journal and trying to cope with everything just on her own. And I think that's a big theme, the loneliness that comes with growth. A high school girl whose brother is actually away at rehab. A different high schooler had sold him drugs and he had gotten addicted, and now he's over at rehab, right? But our high school girl is just trying to make it through her own senior year, which she's struggling with because her relationship is on the rocks. They don't quite see eye to eye. And on top of that, she's there without her brother. She's having to deal with hiding the truth of her brother because her mom acts as if they're ashamed of it. And then add on top of that the fact that her best friend is away at college, so she feels as if she's doing senior year all on her own, right? Well, after an altercation, our main character and her boyfriend break up, which has her feeling so lost and so awful. But rather than focusing on that, she says, forget it. I guess I'll just focus on auditions for school. She's often in school plays, and that is just kind of what she does. She's applying to go to Columbia. New York is her dream. New York is everything that she could possibly want. So she decides that she's just going to focus on that. NYU, Columbia, wherever she's just trying to go, she's just trying to get away from him. So she goes to a party. A friend convinces her to just get out of the funk of her relationship. And she goes out. They go dance. And they have fun. But there seems to be a little something too friendly between her childhood friend and her now ex. But when running outside, she bumps into a boy, the brother of the guy who used to sell her brother drugs. She doesn't trust him. He's obviously bad news. And she doesn't want to talk to him because that family is the whole reason that her family is falling apart. But whatever. Her best friend isn't really texting her back because she's just too busy with college, and she just feels alone in all of this. Her boyfriend isn't there, her childhood friend isn't there, and because of college applications, she actually misses the auditions for one of the school plays. But that's no problem. She decides to audition for a different school play. But who is there but the brother of the drug dealer? She doesn't feel really comfortable around him, but he seems nice. He seems chill. They laugh, they flirt. She auditions for the lead, but she doesn't get lead. She gets the younger sister of the drug dealer's brother. The drug dealer's brother gets the lead of the play. But in the story, she just has to deal with the expectations of her mom. And she also actually starts to build a friendship with the drug dealer's brother. And getting to know him, he's having to advocate for himself. He says that a lot of people actually don't like him and don't trust him because of what his brother had done. But his brother had done what he had because they're a poor family. Our main character goes out to another party, does what she can, is just trying to forget until she sees her childhood friend. This isn't the best friend, by the way. The best friend's over at college. This is her childhood friend. Her childhood friend and her ex kissing. And it hurts, so she slams down some lick. While she's getting drunk, she bumps into the drug dealer's brother again. And she's like, why are you so nice to me? Like, what is wrong? He says, I have no reason not to be nice to you. You're a really pretty, really nice girl. And he says, but you're obviously going through something. What do you want? Like, we should go get away from all this. So they go to the pier and they talk about dreams and advocating for yourself and not having to deal with the expectations of parents and how other people see you. But little did she forget that she had her auditions the next morning. and she doesn't get into school. As the story continues, her and the drug dealer's brother get into a bit of a relationship. But he does have seasonal depression and regular depression that he struggles with. He has anxiety that he struggles with. So she kind of waffles between being in a relationship with him and what he's got going on, and also the school play and the expectations of school and the relationship she has with her brother in rehab and her mom, and not knowing where she wants her life to go. On top of all of this, the story is actually told in almost like a journal, because senior project is keeping a journal and writing out what you have going on in your day. So she's keeping this journal and just reconciling what's going on with her life. Her and her ex get into fights. Her and her best friend are not present for one another, and she's getting into fights with her, and she just feels so alone in all of this and doesn't know what to do. Her brother comes home from rehab, and that relationship isn't good either. But then everything blows up when the boy that she's now dating finds her journal. And they fight because in the journal she had a lot of questions about her ex and what she wanted and what she was interested in and what she wanted for the future. And that hurts because he saw her as his person, and she just has a lot on her plate, and she never thought that her journal would get picked up and read through by somebody else. And he doesn't want to speak to her. He doesn't want to say anything to her. They don't want to talk. And she's just lost at this point. She didn't get into school. She didn't know what to do. And New York was her only plan. Her only plan. Without New York, she doesn't know what's next. Hi, my camera cut out and I completely forgot where I left off. I didn't know that I was talking as long as I was, but the story eventually ends up with a lot of really wholesome apologies and just our main character's acceptance of life doesn't have to go according to her checklist, and that friendships look different as you grow up, and they're going into different stages of your life sometimes really require that you focus on yourself and not dedicate every action and effort to others. It was so good. So good in like a heartwarming YA graphic novel kind of way. So I would say if you just need like an easy time, both of these were great. If you just want something quick, just like a little bit of time to read through something with some very lovely color schemes. I loved reading through all the blues of this one and the art of it. If you want some artistic or artsy-fartsy type of inspiration, I would say both of these were lovely for that. Now, I don't know what was in the water while I was reading this one, but I was getting so teary-eyed just experiencing these characters sort of doing their best around each other, the amount of apologies that were given, the way that Essie was having to maneuver these spaces. I don't know if I'm soft or what was going through my body at that point, but I was legitimately teary-eyed reading this. I don't know what it was. It wasn't even teary-eyed in like a sad kind of way. Maybe it was a sense of nostalgia. Maybe it was a sense of singing to my younger self. I don't know, but it hit something in me, and it was like I was just kind of misty seeing this growth. Maybe I saw myself. Maybe it was calling to a portion of myself. I don't know. Maybe I need to go sit with my own journal and try to figure out these emotions. Next, we have my DNF. And so I'm just gonna read you what this one was about, because my DNF essentially comes from how little I was understanding the story. I also think there's something so weird about reading graphic novels, because it's not just the story, it's how you feel about the art style and the way that the story is drawn out. And I just wasn't quite meshing with this art style. I want to say I think that was it, mostly seeing these characters and seeing it on page. I wasn't enticed by what I was looking at. But here is what Goodreads says the book is about. Set in a version of modern Central Asia, Tongues is a retelling of the Greek myth of Prometheus. It follows the captive god's friendship with the eagle who carries out his daily sentence of torture, and chronicles his pursuit of revenge on the god that has imprisoned him. Prometheus' story is entwined with that of an East African orphan on an errand of murder, and a young man with a teddy bear strapped to his back, wandering aimlessly into catastrophe. A character readers may recognize from Nilsen's Dogs and Water. The story is set against the backdrop of tensions. That's it. Goodreads has a partially done book description, which feels even weirder. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like I wasn't meshing with this. I couldn't tell you anything more than that. I can try to walk you through what I know so far. This is Prometheus, and I believe this is Prometheus. And this is his friendship with the hawk, which I found kind of interesting, but also so confused by it. And then I read through the guy who was hitchhiking. He's got like a teddy bear strapped to his back. And then he gets picked up by some guys in an army caravan. And then here's what the girl on an errand looks like. She also has like a talking chicken. And then you also had this story with this like demon looking guy, but that's a little explicit through those pages. He turns into a man-eating goose. That was page 65, and I stopped reading right here. Because it's like the man-eating goose, dog, monster that's attacking the girl that's on the... I just wasn't really into this story, but if it sounds interesting to you, then I highly recommend. I think if this art style seems interesting to you, if the thought of a Greek retelling seems interesting to you, then definitely go for this. I just personally just felt way too confused, and that just might be a me thing. It probably comes together later. I just never got to the point where it came together. The last collection of stories that I want to tell you about is called Saga. And I came across this just because, the downtown library in Austin is huge. It's such a beautiful library. I'm going to take you sometime just so I can show you around. But they have a large section dedicated to zines, graphic novels, comics, and manga. And I was just walking around strolling, and I saw Saga sitting there, and they had books 1 through 7. And as you know, when you're at the library, it's not often that you find book 1, 2, 3, like you don't find them in order like that. So when I saw that they had books 1 through 7, I was like, let me just grab this. Didn't look at it, didn't see what it was about. I just grabbed it. I think this is truly my favorite thing that I've read this entire year so far. But let me tell you what it's about. You have Marco and Alana. Alana had been Marco's captor. She was one of the guards guarding Marco in this endless war of horns versus wings. Now, the wing army is an army of winged people who are also in partnership with the robots. And this war has been going on for years, ravaging lands after lands, tearing families apart. However, Marco and Alana are able to fall in love within the prison, and this love seems to be stemmed from the book that Alana herself is reading. This book is a romance novel, but she believes that there is a message behind it, a message that these two sides of the war shouldn't be fighting each other. There isn't an inherent and innate need to fight one another. As these two come to fall in love, Alana helps Marco escape, and they come to be with a child. The very first volume of this story opens up at the birth of Hazel, Marco and Alana's child. Now, one thing about the war of the horns and the wings is they say that children can't be had between them. Children die between them. So Marco and Alana having this child seems to be a miracle. However, the birth of this baby is an upset across the world, across the known worlds, across the universe even, because what the war doesn't need is a story of love and hope between the two sides that are fighting. So there are hired assassins. There are hired hands. The robots are sent by the wings. Assassins are sent by the horns. The horns themselves, the wings themselves, reporters, love, loss, betrayal. Marco and Alana are doing what they can to give Hazel a life, to carry Hazel around, to make sure that Hazel has a chance, but they are racing against time, trying to find meaning, trying to understand each other. Their relationship is still so fresh and so new. The love is there, but it's like they haven't met each other's parents. They are trying to find spaces of land that they can live on, and along the way, there is loss after loss after loss after loss. There are angry exes. There's Sextillion, the porn planet. There's, like I said, assassins. There's a planet whose entire being is basically heroin. There's love lost. There's moments of understanding. There's a grandfather who's doing his best to rectify the wrongs that he's done. And this is going to sound so crazy because these are aliens. This relationship between Marco and Alana is so human and so tender and so real. There's addiction, there's communication issues, there's a fear of violence. There's so much behind this story. However, Rosa on Goodreads has tried to warn me that there is pain ahead. There is pain coming. And so I got to book 7 and I decided that I would take a break. But let me at least show you a little bit of what's going on, and other filming me is going to talk you through some of the highlights. And there might be some repetition. Sorry, again, this might feel a little bit chaotic, but I didn't know how I was going to build this. I'm sorry for apologizing as much as I am. Let's hop over to the other me. The story begins with the birth of a daughter. You have two groups of people, the horns and the wings, and they are at war with one another. However, these two, despite the fact that their entire culture is fighting and killing one another, they fell in love. She used to be his guard. Okay, I think I got that. So you open up with them having their child, but at the door, people are blowing the door down. They were sold out. And you also have the robots. The robots are on the side of the wings, but the wings hired them out. But when the wings and the robots break in and try to end what's going on here, this birth, the child literally was just born, the horns break in with their magic. A fight breaks out. It's literally so crazy. Hold on, because I got to tell you about another key player. Another key player you have is this robot. He is the prince robot, and he is hired by one of the wings to go capture and annihilate the couple from the beginning. Because what nobody wants out is that, first off, it's said that wings and horns cannot have kids together. And also they don't want any sort of story or any sort of news to get out that there is any peace amongst these two. They could be a symbol that they don't want at all. So they hire the prince to get them. Meanwhile, these two have a map, and they're talking about what kind of future they want. And they really just want a future where their daughter, who is going to be a mix of the two, can live and have a childhood and be happy. Now, this is the will and lying cat. This cat can sense lies, and the will is a hand for hire that is hired by the horns to capture the couple. But the difference is the prince robot that you remember, who was hired by the wings to get the couple, he's hired to just annihilate them all. The horns only want the parents annihilated, but they told the will not to hurt the child and to bring the child back to them. Now, these two are just on an adventure, running and running and running, and this baby is days old. But they have a lot of people after them, one of whom is called the Stalk. The Stalk is another hand for hire, another assassin who is sent to capture them. But she's sent by somebody who also wants the baby alive. So she's like, don't you worry, I'm just gonna kill you guys. You can choose how you want to die. The baby can live. The mom pulls out a weapon and she's like, hey, you're not going to hurt my baby, and I would rather my baby die than go where you are gonna take her. And the Stalk is like, dang, you are a maniac. And she's like, what's that noise? And the Stalk says, oh no, it's the horrors. And she runs off, runs away. And out come some ghost kids. What we learn next is that these kids were natives who had passed, and their spirits stayed as an act of protection for the forest. But let's go back to the robot. What we find out is that the woman, she was a guard of him, but part of her guarding him was she used to read this romance novel to him every day. And the robot just kind of wants answers. So he's asking a few of the other prisoners, like, what was in this book? What's going on? He's got a temper, though. And he annihilates people left and right. Back to the couple. The husband, he's hurt. The baby is 2 days old. And the ghost is saying, I know a safe place that you can go. Just trust me, follow me. However, I can't leave this forest. I have to bond with somebody's soul in order for me to continue to go. Right? Now, the Stalk is running. She's being chased. And meanwhile, the Will is her ex. They used to date. The Will wants to work with her so that they can work together for this high-profile task. And she's basically like, I don't need you. I can do this on my own. The ghost bonds with the baby. And she becomes her babysitter. It says, rich kids get nannies, but the rest of us have babysitters. Isabel was my first. This whole story is told from the point of view of the baby, Hazel. Hazel is the baby's name. And she grows, apparently she must be living. She must be older and living and telling this story to somebody. Oh yeah. The will spends a little bit of time on a sex planet. Oh, I don't know if I can show you that. Please don't tell YouTube. Well, on this sex planet, this guy, he's like, oh, I got something good for you. And a little girl comes out. And the will ends everybody in there. Now, one thing you need to know about Marcos is he doesn't believe in violence. He said that in order for them to raise a child and in order for them to want a future, you can't raise a baby amongst violence. You have to put down the sword in order to raise somebody in a healthier, happier home. Meanwhile, the robot prince is still on, he still wants to capture people, right? His girlfriend's pregnant. She's pregnant. Back to the fighting. Marcos is wiling out. He's laying it out because they're about to get captured. The will wants this little girl because he wants to get her off the planet. But she's a slave. The stalk gets herself into a situation. The situation she gets herself into is she comes upon the guards that had been fighting Marcos. Marcos is, and his wife have ran off with the baby. They're safe. The stalk comes across them and she's like, oh, what's going on? And she calls the will and she's like, yeah, we should probably work together. And the will is like, I've always loved you. I would love to spend some time together. Here comes the prince. The prince blows the stalk in half. And the will wants vengeance. Oh, and then the couple finds a tree rocket ship. This is easily one of my favorite things that I've read in a long time, and I can't even begin to wrap up everything that's happening in this story. You have the robot have his child, you have hostage situations, you have actual genuine gentle moments amongst the family, you have huge stakes, you have the will getting fat, you have drug addiction, you have reporters who are trying to get to the bottom of everything. And then by the time I got to volume 7, I have never felt so much pain in my entire life. Please just let me do what I'm doing. This was so much fun. I really enjoyed this. I've had so much fun reading these books, and I have some new favorites. I'm excited to go get into Monstress tonight. I'm excited to continue Saga. I'm thinking about hunting down the compendium. Volumes 1 through 54, I believe, are out, and it's still actively being written. And I had set a goal at my mid-year, goal setting and mid-year review, that I wanted to read more books with pictures. And I am so glad I've done that, because my entire year rating is going to change with these books. I feel like creatively inspired. I don't know what it is being able to read these, but please, please, please go pick some up. If you've read any of these and you want to chat about it, and just please put like spoilers in your comment if you're going to spoil anything. I've read up to volume 7. That's as far as I've read. If you want to chat with me, don't you chat any further than volume 7. I need to go grab more. But thank you for hanging out. I hope you're reading good books. If you're reading anything with pictures, I would love to talk to you about it. If you read any of these, I would love to talk to you about it. But otherwise, I'm gonna talk to you next time.